put in a lot of effort, a lot of planning to orchestrate this food crisis that's coming. And the reason they're now broadcasting it to the world, the reason they've got their puppet-in-chief, Joe Biden, reading off his teleprompter about the food shortages that are coming are going to be very real, the reason that The Economist magazine had a picture of the looming food catastrophe with a bunch of little skulls on pieces of wheat, the reason they're telegraphing this to the world is because they think it's too late to go back. That's baked into the cake. A lot of people are going to starve. A lot of people are going to go hungry.
No, it's not, Alex Newman. No, it's not. That's the reason, folks, why you come here to The Beautiful Truth and not to Alex Newman, because that's just absolute rubbish. The Economist, who ran that cover, infamous cover, about the skulls and the grain and the coming food catastrophe, they didn't do that because they care about people in the world starving. They've never given a rat's rear end about that. The reason that made the cover is never let a crisis go to waste, and it's an opportunity to promote Bill Gates and his corporate takeover of global food. Why? Because in this, well, food's now a national security issue. You know, food security is now critical. It's time to sweep away all these restrictions which have held us back from properly exploiting all of the potential and the wonderful new technologies by these geniuses in Monsanto, like their genius colleagues in Pfizer. It's time to just go with the program. Food security, it's absolutely vital to us all. That's the reason. That's why. Not the fact that anyone's going to starve. Russia's had a bumper grain harvest. Has anyone factored that in? I don't know. But you're getting relentless propaganda as if the supermarkets are empty. Already. Here's McKinsey and Company, notorious CIA front management consultancy firm, back in April, talking about the rising risk of a global food crisis, and there you see the grains again. Yeah, because that's the spin right now, to exploit that to promote GE and corporate control of foods. But I think Alex Newman's more than just dumb. Maybe it's dumb. It could be dumb, but it's more disinformation, if you ask me, because he's got some very interesting views. You may think that Vladimir Putin is at war with the globalists and the New World Order, but Alex Newman says no, actually, he's in bed with them. Check this out.
In our military position, and then we'll have this new architecture of global governance that the deep state has been pursuing for a long time. They call it the multipolar world order. Just recently, last year, they called for a concert of nations to run the world order. And of course, China is going to be a major player in all of this, and so will Russia, incidentally.
Really? You think? Greg Hunter, who's doing the interview with Alex here, isn't buying it. He tosses a little hand grenade into Alex's theory. Check it out.
Well, what about Klaus Schwab saying we must destroy China? What about that? What is that, smokescreen?
I think it is. I mean, it's got to be somewhat believable. It's got to look somewhat realistic for people to go along with it. And so, yes, we see globalists very often saying things that you would expect them to say. But when you look at their actions, right, and that old cliche that actions speak louder than words is so true. When you look at their actions, what you see is that the globalists have built up China and have built up Russia from the very beginning. And this is true even back.
Yes, Alex. They built up China, they built up Russia from the very beginning, because the whole aim of the globalization agenda was to entice the flies into the spider's web. So you had to roll out the web of international capital, and the globalists were convinced, and the deep state and other forces behind them, convinced that they would rule the world that they were opening up to Russia, opening up to China. And to an extent, Vladimir Putin was prepared to go along to Klaus Schwab's global summits and play nicey and attract investment capital into Russia and play the whole game. But as we have seen, what happened in 2007, 2008 was that the Western-controlled banking structure was used to rip off the world. And there was a loss of confidence in the financial systems of the West there, which endures to this day, and which is the seedbed of this revolt by the rest of the world, who's now escaping the control So this guy is trying to sell you on the idea that it's all them, that they're all in on it. Well, that's a world where there's no escape, isn't it? That's a nihilistic vision, and that's been sold to you on Zero Hedge website. The deep state's in a do or die moment. Alex Newman warns globalists need to terrify everyone. Author of the popular book, globalists are afraid the world is waking up and they're going for broke. That's the spin. That's what you've been told. But it's complete BS. The truth is that Klaus had his moment, had his opportunity, had, as he said, a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reimagine and reset our world in the mindset of the Davos elite. But the grim reality for them is that this year's Davos was just a damp squib, because there's a bigger story in town. The bigger story that all of this is designed to divert you away from. The hopeful story is that far from there being a global, cohesive, totalitarian agenda, there is a schism which goes right down to the deep roots of the banking system, which is why you see this cleavage in the international banking system now, as a whole load of people break away from the G7 cartel banking IMF World Bank structure. That's the reality. So there is no them taking over everything. So this spin isn't just coming on the geo-financial side. It's also coming out of Trump, and it's coming out of the American right in relation to China and the China virus. Was it really a China virus, actually? Was it really? Certainly the Chinese were patsied up for it. But then the US was all over that apparatus. So maybe it wasn't the China virus. Maybe there was more than just good fortune that Trump closed the US to incoming traffic from China before anybody else. If that's the case, then there is a global revolt underway now against a cabal which was prepared to resort to pandemics to achieve its objectives. Their narrow window of opportunity has closed. The rest of the world has taken a look, and led by Russia and China, the rest of the world is saying, stuff you. We're out of this. We've had enough of your green utopia. Russia doesn't want your green utopia, doesn't want your GE food, doesn't want your Frankenfood, doesn't want your corporate agri takeover. Nobody's going to want it. It's over. And we have to remove everything green. Is just so bloodstained at this stage. It just reeks of corporate. Everything about it reeks of corporate. Whatever ideals motivated its inspiration, it has, like political structures, been completely subverted to a corporate agenda. Serves actually as a cover for the corporate abuse of the planet, which is anything but green. This is an apparatus that's destroying the planet at a prodigious rate with pure greed infrastructure development systems, while at the same time paying carbon credits for a non-existent climate crisis. Crisis, climate crisis, food crisis, crisis, fear porn, food catastrophe. Don't buy any of it. The future has never been so bright. I think I will go and get my shades. and I'll wear them when I come back to the next one. And I hope you'll join me for that too. Hope you'll still be there and you haven't starved to death. But in the meantime, for breakfornews.com, this has been Fintan Dunn reporting. See you soon.